So I'm sure you've heard by now that on December 4th in the early mornings, there was a shooting that took place where a 50-year-old CEO of United Healthcare got shot. And this has awoken the nation.
This is the Ivy League graduate and valedictorian who police say is the suspected CEO assassin.
I could see why a lot of the health insurance CEOs were very, very nervous about their photos being out.
You know why I don't care? That the CEO of United Healthcare was also a husband and father. My mom died from complications due to diabetes.
Deny, defend, and depose were the 3 words inscribed on the ammo used to kill United Health CEO Brian Thompson yesterday.
Investigators say the suspect, wearing all black and a ski mask, waited until the 50-year-old showed up at the Hilton Hotel for an investors conference.
They're very similar to the words delay, deny, defend, which are the title of a 2010 book that was highly critical of the insurance industry. The website of the book, written by Jay Feinman, says, quote, all insurance companies have an incentive to chisel their customers in order to increase profit.
And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable.
6 months before my mom died, her health insurance let her know that all of the things that she had been prescribed and insured for the last 10, 15 years of her life were no longer going to be covered.
And just the kind of caustic reaction to a father, to a human being.
A part of the social media response, I mean, I think, you know, outside of social media, maybe everyone sort of just sees this as a cold-blooded murder. Look, never
can get a generic EpiPen that's called Adrenaclick for $110 at CVS out of pocket, but that's still way too expensive for life-saving medication.
The morning after my mom died, a box full of all of my mom's supplies for the next 4-6 months showed up on my front step.
I'm sure by now everyone's read about United Healthcare CEO having shot.
Prior authorization form, they asked twice about whether or not my patient had HIV. That has no clinical relevance whatsoever.
No, it's no laughing matter. I tried sending my thoughts and prayers, but I'm still on hold.
Inside the box, with all of her supplies, there was a letter that said, due to the change in your current situation, we have now fully insured and covered your supplies. The current change in situation was listed as death.
Luigi's conditions suck! Free Luigi!
Patient expiration. So yeah, it makes sense that all of the health insurance companies in the United States have now taken their CEOs off their websites.
I'm just tired of how insurance companies are treating patients and providers.
Because it's not a matter of if this happens next, it's when.
Very, very quickly, people realized across the board, across the political spectrum, people found it difficult to sympathize with the death of this CEO. Someone took a video of a balloon that someone left at the scene of the crime, and Daily Mail made a memorial video of some kind. There was one side of the media spectrum saying he was a father.
Unsettling to watch the public response to what has happened here, and just the kind of caustic reaction to a father, to a human being.
He was a husband, and then there's the other side. Yeah, he is a CEO of a company that have killed my father, or my husband, or my child, or my neighbor, or my friend. More likely than not, people have had bad experiences with the healthcare system. If not, they will at least know someone who has bad experiences with the healthcare system. People were quick to point out that they raked in about 6% pure profit, which equated to $33 billion. And yet there are doctors making TikTok.
I have to laugh through a little bit because otherwise I would just have my blood boiling right now. I kid you not. This letter was dated in September 2024. And it talked about how I had billed $12 and change for a patient's allergy injection. And so this is a UHC Medicare plan. And they had done an audit and said that they weren't going to cover that bill of $12 and change, which I billed those services back in 2021.
Not only United Healthcare, other insurance companies has also been using AI that have a 90% error rate to deny people's claims. Very clear reference to that was made because when Luigi carved into the bullet casings, deny, defend, and depose.
They're very similar to the words delay, deny, defend, which are the title of a 2010 book that was highly critical of the insurance industry. The website of the book, written by Jay Feinman, says, quote, all insurance companies have an incentive to chisel their customers in order to increase profit.
So when you talk about deny, defend, depose, they reference the insurers delaying payment, denying a claim, and then defending their actions.
I am a doctor, and I have no idea why they're able to deny this. I just don't know. If anybody can help me out, that would be great. But this is how confusing healthcare is, even for doctors, that an insurance company can send me a letter from services billed 3 years ago saying they're not going to cover it. Make it make sense.
United Healthcare? What did we do this time? A PET scan? No, we barely cover human scan. Yeah, Zofran requires a prior authorization. Well, if the chemotherapy causes nausea, then we'll talk. No, we can only approve 10 milligram tablets. And if your patient even thinks about splitting those in half, we will surprise bill the hell out of them. I know you have evidence that says this patient needs a CT scan for cancer surveillance, but counterpoint, no.
People are quick to point out many flaws with the healthcare system currently in place, such as the tying of insurance to companies where people work. To make job positions seem more attractive sometimes, companies offer healthcare as a benefit for their staff. I recently found out that my company's health insurance provider, United Healthcare, will be terminating their contract with the only hospital in driving distance to where I live. I've been fortunate enough to stay out of anything beyond your routine checkups, and my dependent hasn't been for a few years. Tying healthcare to employment is the most fucked up thing ever. I've been at my job for 20 years, but my health insurance plan is going up and costs so much that I might have to look for another job just because of the health insurance. It's fucked up on the level of care and cost I get is based on what the company I work for chooses. While looking around for different examples, I also found chatters on Twitch, for example. I got electrocuted at work. Company denied my claim, still injured, couldn't work. I lose my insurance because I'm not working, so my job stops offering me insurance. Lol, I got my health insurance taken because I got injured. Sometimes people are also forced to stay with their jobs that they don't like. 3 months ago, for example, someone gave this advice on Reddit. If you're planning on quitting a job and have insurance coverage through the company, make yourself a favor before you submit the letter and get a full physical with your doctor. Now I know of 2 persons that have quit their jobs without worrying too much about their next job, only to realize a couple months down the road that they have some type of cancer that could have been detected earlier and treated by their insurance. By screening yourself and potentially detecting cancer or other illnesses while you are still at work, you could potentially save not only your own life but your personal finances. Thought? And one of the replies was, oh, just move to a civilized country with a decent healthcare system. And obviously some replies are like, just move, bro, because that's obviously not feasible. But I feel like it underlines something perhaps bigger, that you don't have this. It's the opposite of this is implied then, that your country is uncivilized with a non-decent healthcare system, with non-Americans even saying it is mind-blowing that Americans have to couple healthcare to work. 2 days after the shooting of Brian Thompson, Forbes already came out with an article saying that United Healthcare denies more claims than any other insurers, angering patients and health systems. Issuers denied a total of 17% of claims in 2021. Fast forward to 2023, the number went up to 49%. That's like half of the claims that people make, right? And I don't think that people out here just making claims for funsies.
Denied. You're filing an appeal. Who taught you that? Yeah, we'll process your appeal in 6 to 8 weeks. I'm sure your patient will be just fine without insulin until then. Yeah, we can cover the pill form of that medication. Well, I think we underestimate what toddlers can do. No, diabetes? No, all of it.
Nearly half the adults who had insurance problems were unable to satisfactorily resolve them, with 15% saying that they experienced a decline in their health and 28% saying that they paid more than they expected. When you pay every month and then when you finally put in a claim and it gets rejected as high high as 49% at the time, yeah, that's gonna cause people to be very upset. I think this is quite understandable. Around the same time this happened, Blue Cross and Blue Shield wanted to actually start implement time limits for anesthesia.
After the killing of United Healthcare CEO here in New York, another health insurer reversed a policy change that had been very strongly criticized. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield had planned to pay different rates for anesthesia based on how long it lasts.
This is clearly an issue that resonates with everyone. Everyone, despite their political beliefs, will eventually get sick one day or know someone who is already sick. My breast cancer surgery was denied by a different insurance company. Breast cancer, she asked me, well, is it an emergency? I don't know, it's fucking cancer, what do you think? I had to appeal and luckily it went through. Evil to do that to people. The concept of murder in and of itself was wrong. However, people struggled feeling any form of sympathy for someone who signed off on these AI programs used to deny people's claims, and the person that was supposed to hold the responsibility of the company. Otherwise, what CEOs are for, they're supposed to bear their burden of responsibility for the company. So when you have a company that is constantly denying people claims, people put that responsibility and blame onto this figurehead CEO. However, it does spark a deeper underlying issues with the healthcare system, because people start complaining about the healthcare system as a whole, not just United, but across the board. The entire system of profiting off of healthcare was the bigger thing that people called out. However, mainstream media and certain commentators still are coming out trying to say that no, this is not how healthcare works, this is not how insurance works, and a blame is attempted to be put on the left side of the political spectrum. However, people were super quick to clap back at that. Ben Shapiro, being one of the biggest right-wing political commentator, released a video with claiming that the left are the ones celebrating. Once again, very quickly, the video was overwhelmingly disliked. The comment sections flooded with talking about how out of touch he is and how this whole left versus right culture war thing is just another distracting point. Once again, blaming the left for everything rather than recognizing that healthcare affects everybody across the political spectrum. I'm a lefty and I want to extend an olive branch to everyone here on the right. I think we see now that many times we actually agree on issues, maybe not on the solutions, but the problems, yes, we want healthy families, we don't want to be stolen from, we want a fair society. Let's not let political ideology separate us. That is exactly what the higher-ups want. They want us fighting each other and distracted. The uniting of the right and the left is the scariest thing that could happen to those in power and the government. I wish you and your families nothing but all the best health, wealth, and prosperity. There's been overwhelming recognition of class consciousness. Science Direct says that class consciousness is defined as the awareness amongst members of a social class, particularly the working class, of their shared class interests and opposition to their other classes, leading to efforts to transform social structures towards a classless society. Perhaps the recognition that the reason that you don't have money in your pockets, or the reason that you are underpaid working for a massive corporation, is not the 30 trans athletes that they convince you is ruining society, the immigrant that they tell you is super scary eating cats and dogs, when in reality the statistics reflect that Americans are more likely to commit violent crime than immigrants, but they convince you otherwise. You would think that the insurance companies would have learned something by this incident.
And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable.
So your fellow CEO got killed, and the overwhelming reaction towards the situation is that the system is fucked and the system is broken. That's the overwhelming reaction. And it seems like the CEO's response to this is that we will still safeguard against unnecessary claims. From the testimonies that have been coming out again and again, it seems like the stuff that they are denying due to it being unnecessary seems to be very much necessary. And doctors have come out stating that some of them have even quit their jobs because they realize that they're spending more time talking to insurance people rather than actually talking to patients, which is the whole reason that they became a doctor to begin with.
Hey everybody, just finished dealing with a insurance thing at work, and I thought this was a good time to remind everybody that health insurance companies don't care about you. They don't care. United, Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross, all of them. They don't care about you. They want to extract as much money as possible from your healthy body. Then when you're no longer healthy, they want you to die as quickly as possible to make room for other money-producing bodies.
But they're spending more time talking to insurance agencies, begging them to cover medication, life-saving procedures, while they rake in billions and billions in profit. Now, I'm never one to sit here and be like, you know, you don't need that money anyway, And I would never say that to someone earning $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. You know, spend your money however you want. I don't give a shit. If you're sitting on wealth that is billions and billions that you will probably never spend in this lifetime or the next 1,000 lifetimes, that you can very easily help redistribute the wealth to severely underserved communities. Instead, you sit on that wealth and you lecture people for not working hard enough. 2 days after the shooting occurred, police actually managed to find a bag with Monopoly money in it found in Central Park. And that only made people dislike him more. New York Police Department offered a reward of up to $10,000. They slowly released more and more images of him, including surveillance cameras. He pulled his mask down for a second to flirt with the receptionist. Sources apparently told CBS that the front desk worker asked to see his pretty smile. The FBI eventually also joined in and separately rewarded $50,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. So in the end, he did get caught because a McDonald's employee told on him, basically. And two customers allegedly was talking about how he looked like the shooter that's been circulating the last couple of days. And the McDonald's worker called 911 and agreed to split the reward money amongst three of them. Surprise, surprise, they are struggling to get the reward money right now because they said that if you want to claim the reward money, you should have called the tip line. Instead, you called 911, so you're not entitled to your reward money. And people came out talking about the irony and how this further shows how they don't give a fuck. You offered your hand in helping. They made this speech about how you see something, you say something, and in the end, they did not reward you, even though you did exactly what they asked you to do. So people came out calling this person a snitch. The weight of social murder is a lot less than the weight of a murder like this. So they can talk about how violent it is that Luigi shot this man. However,
here's the real question. While there's no question being asked about who has empathy for the tens of thousands of Americans who are killed every year by the policies that Brian Thompson has made millions and millions,
Clay,
tens of millions of dollars off of. Why are we talking about the fact that this 25-year-old, 26-year-old perpetrator, alleged perpetrator, went to an Ivy League school when obviously he was so still financially precarious, or obviously we don't know, the facts will come out. But the fact that someone who is relatively privileged in the United States of America can still feel so overwhelmed by our healthcare system that they would go to these lengths, that people who are relatively affluent still find themselves in medical bankruptcy, as you so rightly pointed out earlier, Piers Morgan, that 50% of families that have a cancer diagnosis in their family in the United States of America go bankrupt. That is where the moral outrage should lie. But when you go on elite programs, no offense, Piers, who have wealthy, affluent homes, the focus seems to be on the family of the millionaire and not on the families of the people who have been terrorized by the healthcare system.
You made your point.
They don't show the same outrage for people that have to fight for their claims for their child's chemotherapy, for people that have to fight for their claims for having anesthesia to undergo surgery. It is not violent to increase cancer rates in people who live close to oil wells or people who live close to where there is a lot of fracking, people who live near water sources that have been contaminated by oil companies. These are all not violent, although there have been deaths that occur via these outlets. but it's not as violent to implement an AI system that has a 90% error rate to determine the fate of people's healthcare claims that sometimes is very much in between life or deaths. People have had relatives or friends die because of the failures of the healthcare system, such as being scared to seek healthcare because of the fear of medical debt. People being scared as hell to call an ambulance because of the fear of going into medical debt. Despite over 90% of the US population having some form of health insurance, medical debt remains a persistent problem for people and families with limited assets. Even a relatively small unexpected medical expense can be unaffordable. For people with significant medical needs, medical debt may build up over time. People living with cancer, for example, has higher level of debt than individuals who had never had cancer. So stuff like cancer, when you don't have a say in how or when it happens in you, it just happens, and if you happen to be unlucky, then you're screwed. And especially if you live in certain areas where you're close to these places where they do fracking, or where the oil companies contaminate your river and stuff like this, you will have a higher likelihood of contracting cancer. And then you're gonna have a bigger reliance on the medical system, all because of things you don't have a say over. And then to create a system that then punishes you simply for living in it is not really going to reflect very positively on people. And then they say you should just go out and work out and stuff like that. You should work out, you should improve yourself, of course, but that doesn't change the fact that there are things that is beyond our control, that is environmentally related, that affect our health. We've heard so much before about how stress has such a large impact on our body, whether that's work, whether that's school, whether that's being unable to keep up with rising grocery prices, being unable to keep up with rental prices. This creates a sense of depression and anxiety in a lot of people. It's not really going to be that surprising that over time you make a society more sick this way, and you make them reliant on the healthcare system that fucks them over again. It turns into a very toxic cycle. But I mean, that you've convinced everyone that this is how things are meant to be. It's collateral damage. Parents having to divorce so that the kids don't inherit medical debt when one of the parents pass away. There have been clear appreciation for companies that have remained consistent and actually cared for their consumers. Arizona Tea is one of them. Now with certain media outlets still focusing on the fact that he's hot, focusing on the fact that the fandom is dark, and it shows how out of touch certain mainstream medias have been, because Fox News anchor actually said that perhaps the prisoners in jail will deal with him.
This guy's not ready. He's way too soft. He's going to get annihilated on the inside, and good. If he's not going to get the death penalty, maybe someone will do him justice behind bars. That's all I have to say about that.
How out of touch do you have to be to not recognize that prisoners have historically hated pedophiles and child predators more than any other group? Ah yes, there's nobody prisoners adore and respect more than authority figures like CEO. They're probably taking his death the hardest. All the media just keep showing how completely out of touch they are with the 99%. The fact that he thinks that these prisoners are going to be the one that kill him also shows that he doesn't recognize the prison system in the US and who actually are the prisoners. There actually has been some humanizing of prisoners, because interview came out where a news anchor went to the prison that Luigi is being held at. The prisoners are actually shouting for his freedom instead. Inmates were listening to the news from inside the jail and responding to the news anchors.
Breakfast was fruit, grits, bread, eggs, and coffee. He had the choice. The lunch was porcupine meatballs, potatoes, bread, and fruit. So guys, was dinner good? Yes or no? What
terrible,
are they saying? I heard terrible. I heard terrible.
They're saying They're saying heck no, they're saying BS, they're saying terrible. They're saying that that's not what they are eating.
And they've been told that you get all these like fancy foods and you're like hell no, that's not happening. We've been told to be civil, right? To do things to the proper means. And someone wrote, I have written my senators and representatives almost every year since 2012, and all I get is the occasional canned, pre-written thank you response. And I also did again a few days ago. That has gotten me nowhere. History seems to always repeat itself when you continuously put a group of people under high amounts of pressure. So what now? A lot of people are asking. Clearly, people are more aware of class consciousness now. A lot of people are also harboring fears that this is just gonna be just another story, and people are gonna forget once again the struggles of the everyday people suffering as a consequence of the healthcare system. There are three things you have control over: your body, your brain, and your money. Use them well. On top of that, educate yourself. Educate yourself on why this is happening, or what has led to this point in our society. Don't let them dupe you. So, with everything you've learned from this video, whether you agree or disagree with me on one or more points of this video, I really hope that you actually look into it. If you disagree with anything I said, look into it, study, look up the statistics yourself. Right now, New York prosecutors are using a 9/11 era anti-terrorism law in their case against the man charged with gunning down United Healthcare CEO outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel. So they're using 9/11 era terrorism laws. Luigi was indicted on charges of murder as an act of terrorism under a state of law that allows for stiffer sentences when a killing is aimed at terrifying civilians or influencing government. In this scenario, it seems like civilians are not as terrified as CEOs. CEOs are running to get security.
Clear that companies need to extend the security blanket that exists for those top-level CEOs down to their lieutenants, because there are a lot of massive corporations out there.
Because of how scared they are, and civilians are almost simping over him online. Mangione would face a possible life sentence if convicted. New York does not have the death penalty. The state's highest court threw out a capital punishment law in 2004. If he was convicted to the death penalty, I don't think people would take that lightly. It seems like there is an overall bigger focus on order over justice. On the record, I condemn murder. Obviously, I condemn the murder, of course. I'm just saying that history repeats itself, and we have a horrible recognition of that in many cases. It's not going to be very surprising if bigger actions happen if the root causes of the problems aren't fixed. Educate yourself, empower yourself, take care of yourself, and take care of your friends, your neighbors, your family. And with that, thank you so much for staying to the end. Peace.